Okay, yeah. Hello, everyone. This is the May 19th, 2024 NGL intro. The topic is talking about patriarchy and the future of humanity.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I would love to hear from a couple of people who may have not been here before. What brings you here today? What are you hoping to get from being here, focusing on this particular topic? Sebastian,
Hi, Mickey.
hello. Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been a while. Um, yeah, the invitation email totally totally addressed the topic that I have been inside of me for quite a while. As you hopefully know, you are extremely important in my personal development, and I call you my most important teacher. But especially
No,
this
I
topic,
didn't know that. Why would I know that?
I think I told you, but could imagine that.
Just because somebody told me something doesn't mean I'm going to remember it, but thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is so much appreciation for you and your work, but the most friction and irritation I actually have exactly about this topic that you addressed. So I was reading all the stuff that you asked for, and yeah, and I think I'm a bit further. I think I found a bit of answers, and so I'm here to deal with this. I have the hope of understanding you more, finding more clarity. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I'm here.
Thank you. Let's hear from one more person. What brings you here? One more person. What are you hoping from being here? Dennis.
For me, this has been the great topic that never gets discussed. It feels like the backdrop to so many other discussions that are on the table regularly: colonialism, racism, all the oppressive systems we're in, and yet patriarchy feels like the backdrop, almost the invisible backdrop, and it's the word that will never be used, or the topic that will never be discussed. So I'm here, like, fully and very curious, and want to talk to other people about it and hear other people's feelings within the patriarchy as we know it.
Thank you. Thank you. So I was going to start with saying some things. And in this moment, my intuition is, I don't want to do that. I think I want to open it up to questions right away. And as we said in the initial email invitation, I'm open to questions from anyone, and I want to give priority to those who actually engage with the materials and came here prepared with questions based on what you read. Very interested in engaging in that way. And so the floor is open for anyone. And I have this intuition that many of you who have been around, I often speak about speech patterns, that there are certain groups of people that speak more than others. And in this particular instance, I want to particularly invite the men to ask questions. I'm almost wanting to start with a prayer. I don't have God in me, and prayer is not actually usually something that's very meaningful for me. But it's coming up as a prayer for all the tenderness that exists to come here and be with us and surround the men and enter the men's heart to soothe all the pain and all the brutality that it took to get you to where you are now. That's how I want to start, and then open to questions from anyone and prioritize the men.
Hi, I
Hello,
just want to share. I don't have a question, but just wanted to share that your prayer just brought me to tears.
that's the point.
So thank you. Really, wow. Wow. I don't have words at the moment, but thank you for connecting me and for this feeling. Yeah.
I know you're saying you don't have words, and I so would like to hear more words. If you can find them, what is this feeling?
I feel it's I'm thinking it over now. Something from this thing of realizing, like, I mean, I don't know if realizing it's the right word, but I mean, feeling it deeply that I have partners for uh, for what for I don't know, for the way I want to live, for the way I want the world to be. So it's this, I think this was the moment. This what happened in that moment. Yeah, when you said prayer, I'm connected to this. I don't know what is God, whatever, but I felt the emotion or the feeling or whatever in this.
Yeah,
Yes, I think that was it.
thank you. And as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, Amir is from Israel, where I'm from, and where there are some exceptions, and they are very complex, and doesn't make sense to get into it right now. But fundamentally, every Jewish male person in Israel is conscripted to go to the army involuntarily. You don't really have a way out. Now there are more people who are willing to go to prison instead of going to the army, but that's what it means. To not go to the army is to go to prison. And I'm just through this, expressing this prayer and through your response, I'm connected in a very visceral way to the added layer of brutality that it is that every male person in a particular culture goes through being in the army, which is a very, very extreme intensity of brutalization. Regardless of what your political views about whether you want to have armies or not, want to have wars or not, it doesn't matter. I can't imagine that there would be anyone in the world who would say, no, armies do not brutalize the men that go to them. So, yeah, just wanted to park that too. Thank you. Almin,
Hi everyone. I
your internet interfered.
yeah, I was just I tried several things, but it seems like yeah. Um I give it a try if not.
Yeah.
What was coming up for me was that I am overwhelmed and helpless at times because what you um what you are writing, I'm in a position of privilege as a man, and if I want to support women, it's like this overwhelm of constantly keeping track of this, that I'm in a position of privilege, and how do I do it? Yeah, it's
Thank you. I actually want to take up this question because I think addressing it through the lens of privilege is not going to get you where you want.
okay.
Because, and this, the same applies for any privilege that we have. If we enter a situation and go like, oh my God, I'm in a position of privilege, how do I navigate this situation? What that leads you to is this contraction. And from the place of contraction, you don't think creatively. You don't come up with pathways that are based on care, collaboration, embracing, softness, all of those things. Instead, I want to think of it in terms of vision and limitations. So if your vision is to support women's leadership, which I believe is actually a path of liberation for men, not just the liberation for women, not just liberation for humanity. I think it's liberation for men because it will reconnect men to a whole lot of qualities and capacities that otherwise go dormant. If you embrace this as your vision, then the question is not, what do I do with my privilege? The question is, what do I need to do in order to support this woman or this woman or this woman? What are my limitations? How do I work with my limitations? How do I seek feedback? How do I increase my capacity to do it? And it's a towards exploration, not away from. Does that make sense, Armin?
It makes a lot of sense, and I just wanted to add one thing, which is, just adding, is that I have experienced in my work or where I live that usually when women are in leadership, they are in a system where they are required to be the better leader than the man, with leading with men's qualities, and that is that is not what you are seeking for, and that is not what I am seeking for. And I just wanted to add that.
Yes. Yes. There is research that unfortunately I lost the reference for many years ago. There is research that shows, it's painful to say, that when you take a group of people, there's a linear relationship between the proportion of women within the group and how well the group functions on standard measures of group functioning. And the linear relationship is from 0 to 100%. The more women there are and the fewer men there are, the better the group functions. So what ends up happening is, because that isn't normatively accepted within mainstream society, it is believed that women are emotional, they are not rational, they don't do the right things, they blah, 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 all of these things that are said about women. I don't need to say them again. Then women are put in the same position that you are saying. It's not that they need to be better leaders than the men. They need to show themselves to be more capable of doing male training type behaviors than men are. And it's a terrible bind for the women. And it also doesn't serve the group. And the question of how do you then support them isn't actually the question that I was thinking about. I was thinking about supporting women's leadership when they are in more creative environments, like, for example, within NGL. This is an explicit, stated goal for the men who are within NGL to support women's leadership within NGL. NGL is overwhelmingly women, not only, it's not a women's space, it's overwhelmingly women, and the men that function within it orient to the women's leadership. It happens, and it's many times brings me to tears what the men are choosing to do within that environment. But that's different from what you are asking.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't asking it. I was just
Yeah. What I would say is, if there is a woman who is caught up in that environment, whom you want to support, you take her out to lunch, you sit with her and you say, look, we don't need to talk nonsense. I know that you're caught in this system. I know how hard it is. What can I do to support you? And let her choose.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Armin. Is there any follow-up to this from anyone? Any additional thoughts about this very thorny and delicate question? Yes, Barbara. You did it.
Okay. Hello. Can you hear me?
Speak more and we'll see.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, but it's a little muffled. We lost her. We did, didn't we? Yeah, I think so. She'll come back. Anyone else? Any follow-up on the conversation I just had with Armin? So I am wondering if it would be beneficial for people. If I see enough nods, I will do it, to go into small groups to kind of think through what questions you might want to bring. Would that be of benefit? Yeah, let's do it. Ian, do you know how to do that?
I have the breakout rooms prepared. Ian is
Ah,
taking care of the putting things in the chat. How long do you want to have them?
let's do 10 minutes.
10 minutes. And the people with the equal signs, you're all moved into room 1. Please accept the invitation. That's the no breakout room. Okay, and I open the rooms.
Thank you.
Okay, Kari, I also sent you the invitation to room 1.
Do you want to pause the recording?
Ah, yeah, of course.
Okay, so hopefully there are now questions that people have. Because this is what we came here for, is for you to ask questions. Yes, Sebastian.
Yeah. I'm not totally clear about my question, but I hope that it comes around when I start talking.
You want me to answer without knowing the question, of course. That's completely fitting with my capacities to guess what somebody's asking and answer it without them saying.
No,
Just kidding. Go ahead.
yeah.
I'm joking.
Okay, yeah. And I hope that to find the question that so I think my longing is to be in alignment with you. So that is and I can live with it, but not being it at this point, and to go along with that. There is something we have, like, that it doesn't work for me like it works for you. But yeah, I would like to really understand, or like that there is a misunderstanding. Would like to find is there something that I'm not getting, that I don't see. So maybe I would like what I heard from reading the papers, because in the one paper where you brought in this Mr. Greenberg or something, I think wasn't really his real name. You brought up in the one paper you wrote, there was like someone that you had used to talk to, like that you appreciated, a man, and he kind of told you like that he is irritated by your use of the words patriarchy and.
Oh yeah, it's a false name. That's why I didn't recognize it. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I think in this paper you addressed these questions that I had, and what I heard different things from you. There was one aspect that you brought up, like a request, please don't ask me to change the name. And there I heard there could connect to that this word means a lot to you, that it was very helpful to you, and that somehow changing it would be really kind of that losing something, that something gets lost.
Thank you. Thank you. It's not that it means something to me. It's that I think that it means something, period. And if we take away the word, we lose analytic power.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I hear it, yeah. And at another point, you also said that you think it's very analytic and descriptive. And there, at this point, I cannot really follow. I don't see like what gets lost. I mean, yeah, sure, like it's the one word, but at the end, it's like how do we define it? What happens after the usage of the word? But to really get the sense of what is like so much at this one word, like that.
How would you frame it instead?
Yeah. I use, I think, terms of like that there is this chronified mindset, narrative.
Yes, and all those are at the level of ideas. Those things that you say are at the level of ideas. And the point of patriarchy is that it describes something that happens on the material level. And this is a weakness in Western civilization, is being able to do actual material analysis.
And with material, you mean that they are like structures, that they are systems, like things that's not just minds, idea, yeah, that like...
even deeper than that, actual physical things like bodies and things and material resources. The systems and structures are built on top to sustain and reproduce and carry into the future. The shifts that patriarchy signifies, but the shifts start on the material plane.
Yeah, and I think I also would like include this. And when I mean, I'm not like, I think I don't have like a word that totally like replaces, I think, how you use the word. So I'm still in the process, and but I
So
think
let me ask you a question, which is, how do you account for why it is that women are controlled by men rather than men by women? Do you think that is random, or do you think there's a reason for it?
I think there is a reason, but somehow it still seems to me that it is just an aspect, like also like, why are white people so dominant and not black people? Why is heterosexuality?
I don't think that white people are more dominant than darker skinned people because of,
I don't mean personally. I mean just how much power they accumulate.
yes, I think this is something that happened through a sequence of invasions. It isn't something that is specific to the biological nature of the difference between this or that skin color, whereas there is biological reasons for why women became controlled. And without understanding that, we cannot understand the system.
Yeah. And it still seems to me that, yeah, that we can address this and like, but putting it like in front of the name, I see so much, like I see disadvantages of using the name, and yeah,
I say it repeatedly, and I will say it again. I'm not attached to the name. I'm attached to there being a name that points to material reality. And if you say domination systems, it doesn't. It doesn't point to the material source of the systems that we have. So I am completely open to changing it if somebody gives me something that actually does the job. And if it doesn't do the job, then I want to turn around the question and ask, why is it so disturbing? What is it? Is it that you think that patriarchy is over?
no.
Then why not call something by a name that describes it? I'm really, really curious to understand.
My sense is that it makes it harder for people to understand what I want to convey to them. Like people in certain areas, like in certain circumstances, like it depends on like who am I talking to, like what is my audience right now.
Absolutely. And then in certain audiences, I might not use the word. But here, I'm not talking to those people. Here, I'm talking to people who want to carry a certain understanding within them. So I am completely, I'm not even going to use the word racism in certain places. I'm not going to use many words in certain places. Within a place where we are trying to understand things as deeply as possible, I want to use the most accurate language.
Okay, that totally works for me. Like for me, it's like the point of really just when we go outside to the world and we want to make the change that we want to see, then I think like having this word like at the center in front, then I think that's not helpful, and I don't want to use it.
And I'm not going all the way with you, like I will never use it out in the world. I will use it as much as possible and use something else as little as necessary, rather than put the word away and say, okay, I will just use something else, because then you are reaching people with something that isn't actually the thing. Because then people hear you at the level of ideas and not understanding that we need to change things at the material level of where resources flow and what happens to bodies, which domination system doesn't capture that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's on, yeah, it's on my words, it's domination, but yeah.
It's
So
not your word, so I don't know what word you would use, but that's the one that people repeatedly propose to me, as if I never thought of it ever,
yeah.
that might be a word to use.
Yeah. That helped me, like, just like this, because that is, I think my main point is using it going outside. When we talk like internally, then I'm still not like, I'm not really understanding like what you, why it is, why it is, but that's like something that's not important to me. Like when you use it, I understand it, I can use it. That's just, look, so that's there I don't have a problem with. Yeah. Like when
The
yeah.
issue, the specificity of the issue is paternity. It's not maleness, it's paternity. That's why it's patriarchy, not androcracy. It's patriarchy because it is the shift from the mother principle to the father principle. That is what the patriarchal turn is.
No. Okay, maybe I can give you like what is like why I'm not totally following. For me, when I like what I think what's my understanding, and I think there might be a lot of differences still in our understanding that we cannot like really grasp so fast. But I see it I see it everywhere. Like I'm a psychotherapist, so, and I also work a lot with groups, and look, I see this everywhere, and it's in yeah, and I would like, and it's obvious that it exists as a phenomenon, and then there comes the question, where does it come from? Why is it like, why is it there? And I have my answers to it, where it comes from, which probably are a bit different, but not like, because you make this historical aspect, like really what happened, and for me it's more, I see more like psychological, also
I know,
stuff.
and we differ there. We differ there because I think psychology is the result of something, not the source.
Yeah.
So the difference between us isn't specifically about the term patriarchy. It's actually an analytic difference of how we explain things. If your explanations are psychological, that's a gap between us. That has nothing to do with patriarchy. And it's fine. I'm not going to ask you to think differently. I just want to point to the misalignment isn't about the word patriarchy. It's about how we approach understanding human phenomena.
Yeah.
And if most people approach them psychologically, most people do.
Yeah, but I'm not. I mean, when I mean psychologically, I also have a background in evolutionary psychology. So where does our psyche come
The
from?
same. Evolutionary psychology, more often than not, looks at has certain views of human nature and isn't necessarily aware of 97% of human history we lived in peaceful egalitarian societies. They don't necessarily hold that view. There are evolutionary psychologists who do, but it's not a common feature within evolutionary psychology. It starts from what is human nature, and I don't start from what is human nature, because for me, human nature is uniquely unspecified. It is the core aspect of human nature, as I understand it, that it's not specific, that it's malleable. It shapes itself based on material and social conditions. That's a deeper layer of different view. So I think it's not just the word. Does that make sense to you? And again, I'm not asking you to change your mind at all. I'm not wedded to you agreeing with me.
Yeah.
It's just important for me that we are able to point to where the difference is.
Yeah, I might. I might. That there is something that we different. Yeah, have different lenses, some or perspectives. I can, even though I think I'm not like, but yeah, but just let me like maybe one idea, but to check what you say to that is there is something like when you talk, because it's you make the term comes from an understanding of the past, and somehow there is like from like there could be with time things change, because like how do we know? It's like to really know what happened in the past is a bit difficult, and to
We don't know. We don't know. We have theories and interpretations, and
Yeah.
we all, whatever we look at, we ultimately read whatever we read, we see whatever evidence there is, and then we make up our minds. Of that, I'm quite sure that nobody actually knows.
Yeah, and that's why there is like it feels like if someone kind of doesn't follow the logic of like said no, the archaeological evidence isn't really good or something, that somehow they can all like kind of attack the whole idea. And I think let's stick with what is obvious, what is happening, like what is the phenomenon. The phenomenon is right here. It's scarcity and
Yes,
helplessness and
but this
separateness.
phenomenon is the reproduction of the system. It's much easier to explain how the system reproduces itself than to explain how it started. And in my mind, if we don't understand how something started and we try to change it without understanding the root causes, we're less likely to find our way to creating the change that we want.
Yeah, I also agree like that. Like I take a lot of similarities about like when I talk about social systems and groups compared to like just human beings. And like in my work, like understanding where trauma was created is totally helpful. It totally helps to understand what happened. But sometimes you cannot really get to it because trauma happened before you could remember. And then there's always something, we have a theory, and it also even helps to have a theory, but somehow I often then tell my patients it's not so important to totally exactly know what happened, but we know something like that happened. It must happen, like it has like, but there's an uncertainty about what actually it was. But the reality, the trauma is here and now in the moment, and it happened, has so much effects on all of your life. It's so obvious, and so you cannot it can never be affected, like the reality of the now, by what happened in the past. So even if the explanation of what happened in the past might change because it's not so sure, but so I would prefer to name something by what is much more obvious and more descriptive of what is right now than by a theory that explains why it happened.
I think the analogy between individual and historical and collective, for me, in the way I'm making sense, doesn't actually carry. I understand much more why what you're saying would make sense at an individual level, and at a collective level, I'm not as sure as you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
you very
you. I appreciate your persistence, and I want to know if you are leaving this conversation because you said you wanted alignment with me, and it looks like we have less alignment than you thought. And how is that for you?
On a personal level, I have a sense of that there is more closeness, so that helped me, and I have more clarity about the points where we differ, and these differences are not irritating. So I can live with them
I'm
much
really glad.
better than with what the irritation that I had before.
Great. Thank you. I'm glad I asked. Thank you. I'd like to know if there's anyone from the hands that are up that is within the conversation that I had with Sebastian. I would like to hear those first. Eleanor.
I also have like I hear you saying that patriarchy like points to elements of culture that are reproduced in the material plane and we can see them. But you are kind of saying it has to do with fathering, and also like there is really effective, gentle fathering that happens before what you call the patriarchal turn. So that's something that doesn't quite line up for me. For me, what's actually happening is like a cultural normalization of trauma. And then that does interact with biology differently, where biology is different. And that biology can be different based on like what we physically define as sexes, but biology can also be different for other reasons that are specifically related to physiological stress. A quick example of that is it's like statistically more probable for people to be, if they're male on the autism spectrum, if they're female, to be queer, if their mother has elevated testosterone when that child is in utero. And elevated testosterone is a sign of stress or trauma. So I see the connection to the normalization of trauma and the way that we behave when we're traumatized, and then kind of normalizing that as culture and repeating those things instead of putting them away. And our dominant culture right now is constantly triggering us to be in a trauma state.
There's clearly lots of data that you have that I don't have. So I can't speak very much to this. I want to speak to only one thing. It is not fathering per se that created patriarchy. It's the necessity to know who the father is once you have accumulation. Once you have accumulation and you want to pass things on to your children, you need to control the women to know who your child is. That's the link. So it isn't the fact that there were people who were fathers and didn't have any controlling behavior isn't the issue. It's similarly, I used to think that it was agriculture that created patriarchy. And it isn't. That without agriculture, my current belief is that we have had many patriarchal turns that didn't stick because the next generation relaxed back into the structure that existed. But once you have the possibility of accumulation and the controlling of women so that the accumulation will go to the children of the man, that's when it starts reproducing itself through collective ongoing trauma. So this is where I see both connection and difference with what you're saying. How is that making sense or not to you?
The accumulation piece, to me, like the name of that is capitalism, right?
No,
because we were able
no,
to.
capitalism is only 400 years old. Accumulation is several thousand years old.
I mean, we could agree to disagree in the sense that, to me, what exactly you're describing is the ability to amass capital, which is like the foundation of capitalism. It's the foundation of creating inequitable systems because you are able to accumulate. So it could be the building block.
Not all societies of accumulation are capitalist. There are specific structures that are capitalism. You have class societies. I would agree with you that accumulation creates class societies, but not all class societies are capitalism. Capitalism is a fairly late phenomenon. I would invite you to read the book Debt, where a lot of these things are discussed.
Yeah. One other thing in terms of the naming that I want to bring in, I use these terms a lot already, like power over, as like the structure. And the other reason why I think that is important is because I see there's a lot of developmental components to like how we get trained, and the power over is something that is currently practiced by people of all genders towards people of all to children of all sexes, the like domination of children, and the kind of disempowerment of children that happens through the current traditional education system, which a lot of people are exposed to, and also traditional parenting that might include things like punishment, shame, To me, those are also like traumatized forms of raising children, but they're also enculturated in structures in a similar way that you're describing with patriarchy. And I think that those are major contributors to the problems that
and
we
I
have.
see these as symptoms of patriarchal societies. So I think it's like how we look at it is different. I mean, we're looking at the same thing and we are making different sense of it. Yeah. Complete for the moment, Eleanor?
Yeah. I think the important thing that I want to elevate is just there is physiology involved, and that's a place where like I feel aligned with like naming gender, because that creates a very strong physiological
Sex.
yeah,
Gender.
sex.
Gender is a patriarchal invention itself. Gender does not exist biologically. It only exists socially.
I think there's a continuum of like hormonal expression that is physiological, that has been recognized like through like many generations of indigenous like heritage holding, that acknowledges the presence of physiology that emerges in what we name as gender. So I think it's a little bit tricky because there are things like elevated testosterone in women that create, you know, male characteristics that if we embrace them fully, we'll just embrace them as an expression. But they are correlated with different behaviors like assertiveness or aggression, that comes from the physiology of the hormone. And those can be present in people. So I think that the physiology matters.
Such a long conversation, because there is also social links in terms of hormones. It's very complex. I really don't want to pretend to know.
Yeah, I just want to name that this physiological piece is it's important, and I think we miss it a lot. The physiology of trauma, the physiology that underlies patriarchy or gender-based many things. So I just want to name it.
Thank you. Thanks, Eleanor. I appreciate the depth of your investigation and how passionate you are about making sense of things. Yeah.
Mickey,
Thank you.
I was just thinking of suggesting a breath, because the two discussions that were there were quite dense and there was quite a lot that came up. So maybe just having a breath before going to the next person.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think I want to do something more than the breath, which is to actually ask anyone whose hand is not up if there's anything you learned from either of these two conversations, so that we can metabolize it a little bit. Can you just say what you learned, Janice?
It's more something that I feel a lot of resistance. I feel more resistance than curiosity in some ways.
In where?
In approaching the discussion of patriarchy.
Mm-hmm. I'm still not sure what you're talking about. Are you willing to say a full sentence or to give an example of what you mean? Because I'm feeling uncertain.
Well, I think with both of the questions that came forward, I felt like the questions are coming from a direction of not exactly questioning the idea that there is a system called patriarchy, but that there's like a resistance to entertaining the idea of the deep underpinnings that it has on our lives.
Mhm. Thank you. Is there anything else that anyone learned? Natalie, did you raise your hand for this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I learned is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that for us to understand the depth of the systemic shift, right, we really need to know the root. And what patriarchy gives us as an opportunity, as an analytical lens, is to understand at the material level what needs to shift. And what I understood,
Yes.
what I understood
Thank
mean.
you. I really love the way you said it.
You're welcome.
Really, just so simple. I'm really grateful for that.
Mm.
What needs to shift at the material plane? Yay.
And what I understood why patriarchy is significant in that it posed a problem for men around accumulation is that as humanity lost trust in one another, either through disaster, which is stuff that you've talked about too as well, or war, we began to hoard. And so then men had to ask the question of, what do I do and who do I give this hoarding to? And that's where patriarchy came in, around this idea of, I need to know who my offspring is. And the bright idea was to control women, and they could have thought of something different. But I think that's how that carries through the material lens around accumulation and the rise of patriarchy. Anyone
you.
else? Okay.
Yeah, I'm grateful.
Okay.
It's very satisfying when somebody gets things and says them in their own words that are close enough and far enough to both give me a sense that the person gets it and that they're not parroting me. So it increases my sense that it's like, okay, this actually makes sense to someone and it comes back to me. It's very pleasurable to have moments like this. So, and considering how often you and I have not had pleasurable moments, I am doubly enjoying having this moment now. So
Good.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I feel ready to move to a different topic. Unless there's something that's really burning for someone in relation to this one still. Catherine, something is burning for you? I see the smoke. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess in listening to both of those conversations, I was having this idea that a lot of what Janice was saying, like resistance to the conversation, for me is thinking of patriarchy as a bad thing and like bad guying patriarchy. And what I've worked through for myself is that it's not patriarchy that's bad. Patriarchy actually has served a purpose, just like trauma serves a purpose, like a trauma reaction serves a purpose. And I think that patriarchy is kind of like one of those stuck trauma reactions. And the badness is that we're just stuck in it. That we're not able to release it and go back into a regulated state, which is that whole idea of the matriarchal egalitarian, that patriarchy was a defense mechanism that we just got stuck in, that we haven't been able to release. And so that way I can look at it like it's not bad. It's just, it was a very useful, very intelligent response to something that is no longer useful or intelligent.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. All right. Kate, is your question coming from engaging with the materials? Then I would like to give priority to those who have engaged with the materials. Which doesn't mean we won't hear your question, but maybe down the line. How about you, Kiran?
Yeah,
No, it's more in terms of the practicalities
No,
of
no,
how.
Karen, I was saying Kiran, that's the
Oh.
person before you. Kiran, were you engaging with the materials?
No. Thank you.
Okay, and Karen, you also haven't.
Oh, I've read the material. But what came up for me was more in the practicalities of how to be in a leadership role without trying to adopt patriarchal practices. But that you might want to just address something else later.
Probably. But keep track of it. Don't kind of like disappear. Shana?
It might be more in the practical, so I'll defer to the next in line.
And Hannah? Did you engage with the materials?
Yeah, I think my question has to do with what you describe as your understanding of the origin of the patriarchal turn. And my question might be kind of off topic, which is fine, you can just ignore it. But I was wondering if you see there is a connection between the physical origin of patriarchy and the domestication of horses and what that means for transport and movement. You know, if we think of horses as being domesticated on the Eurasian steppe and then moving into Europe, is that sort of sudden ability of fast transportation and, you know, the ability to get to a village that you've never really encountered before really quickly and take from them and then run away, is that something you think could be tied into patriarchy? And if so, what would that?
Yeah, I can say that I read the book that came out a couple of years ago by Heidi Göttner Abendwald. I'm probably butchering her name. And I know that I haven't fully integrated at the detailed level. It's still work in progress for me to think through interlacing the level of detail that she gives about how patriarchy started in those regions into what I knew before. That hasn't happened, but I know that there was something about the maintaining of animals and the moving animals from place to place and the climate change that happened in those times. That has something to do with what happened in those times. And I don't have the level of detail within me. I just want to say, I like the way that you're thinking. This, to me, is an example of material thinking. Whether it actually happened this way or not, it's thinking through how do shifts on the material plane change consciousness, change behaviors, change norms, change habits. That question is the level at which I believe that we need to think in order to be able to answer the question that Natalie framed for us so beautifully, which is, what are the changes that need to happen on the material plane to shift out of where we are?
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
And it's only in the last couple of years that I came to the thought that human needs are biological. The NVC needs, I don't know if you know NVC or not, people come here from different places. There is this whole thing, the list of human needs and all of that. And I don't believe that Marshall Rosenberg was speaking about needs as a biological phenomenon. And I now think of it as a biological phenomenon. In other words, the need for dignity, let's say, that appears very spiritual, I think of it as biologically necessary for humans to experience dignity in order to be able to live. And in fact, injuries to dignity are one of the reasons that end up causing violence later.
Yeah.
So I used to, when I embraced feminism eons ago, before many of you were even born, I had an aversion to anything that would explain anything biologically. Because then it's like, oh, there are differences between men and women. We can't tolerate the idea. No, there shouldn't be any differences. And it's very, very slowly that I am learning that biology matters. It doesn't matter in the ways that patriarchy claims it matters, and it still matters. And being able to engage with biology is one of the layers at which I am re-embracing the material plane. Yeah, so thank you for, I just am saying this to encourage your thinking.
Yeah. I guess part of it is me, when I read some of your wisdom tales from the future, I was initially very surprised that everything felt very global and not so much local, if that makes sense. And I was thinking, how will we be able to make a world that works for all of us if we don't really strengthen those local connections? You know, in terms of where we get our food from and how well we know everyone around us, our neighbors, and yeah.
I would love to have that conversation with you, and I think not today.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, then. I think it's Kate.
Okay. I have a friend who is a trans woman and who is in a great deal of pain because of the increasing levels of exclusion and even the denial of the existence of trans people that is happening in the UK. Some of this is a right-wing government. Some of this is feminists. Can you see, how do you think this connects with patriarchy?
Ooh.
It's just a small question.
Yeah, I know, tiny.
Yeah, itty bitty.
I just want to do live consult with Aurelia and Emma.
It's fine, I can hear. What is your question, Mickey?
At what level do I take on this question? What would you recommend?
What she said. Can you say it again? What Kate said? No, I didn't hear what Mickey just said. Can you repeat, Mickey?
Yes, I want to respond to Kate's question, and I want to know at what level, how far do I go with responding to that? We could be here for several days, and there are also repercussions. So I want to be very mindful about how to address it.
I have a question for you, Mickey. Do you have a sense of really clearly understanding the purpose of Kate's question?
Thank you. No. Let's start there. Thank you, Aurelia. So, Kate, what is your hope with asking this question? If there was an answer, what would it give you?
It would give me a brilliant insight to move past the impasse that I see in a particular group I am in, where there is a lot of anxiety and pain around trans inclusion. And also I see what trans people could be bringing. And I'm hoping you would have something brilliant, wonderful, and amazing, and Mickey likewise, to say about the situation.
Okay. I don't. I really don't.
Yeah. But also,
I have thoughts. I have thoughts, but I don't think I have thoughts that are a brilliant Mickey-like way of addressing the situation. I think we're very far from that.
But also, I think there is how is it that a patriarchal government and feminists seem to have the same aim? I'm puzzled.
I I can't speak about the patriarchal government. I can say that I have a deep belief that feminists are not understood in terms of what their aims are. They are misinterpreted in what is being said. Deeply, deeply, deeply misinterpreted. That I can say easily.
I can say that a well-known feminist in the UK has used my friend in the preface of her book, addressing my friend as he.
I still believe
Yeah.
that there's a misinterpretation at the heart of why this feminist would do that. There's an action, and then there's an attribution of meaning to the action. And this is basic NVC. The observation is that this feminist referred to your friend as he. And it's not the observation that is creating the reaction for you and for many others. It's attributing a certain meaning to that. And I believe the meaning that is attributed to why some feminists are doing this is erroneous. And then they get lumped together with right-wing people, but I think it's a completely different pathway. That I can say with ease.
I'm not comfortable with your response.
Then let's leave it there.
Okay.
Mickey, I just want to check with you if you need anything right now.
Thank you. So just for everyone's knowledge, Aurelia is my support person today because I was anticipating that this wasn't going to be an easy conversation today. And so that's why I'm turning to her for consulting when I need support, and why she is also on her own stepping forward. I think what I would like to say is this is definitely difficult. And I'm actually feeling solid, like I'm feeling within a sense of integrity and a willingness for what I'm saying to not be comfortable for people. And that actually feels strong. And Emma, please lower the shades because there's a lot of sun coming in. Do you trust that, Aurelia? Do you trust what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And I also want to, Emma, it's still very bright there. Anyway, I'm also wanting to make visible that what I am doing, how I'm navigating this, having active, open support and all of that is completely unprofessional. And that this is entirely part of the project is to deprofessionalize our life. Yeah. And Kate, is there any support that you would like from anyone for your discomfort?
No.
Okay.
I don't have that level of trust.
With anyone here?
I can see one person in the group whom I trust.
Would you private message that person and see if they are willing to support you?
Okay.
Because I would like you to get support. It's a very awkward position to have asked a question publicly and then not to be comfortable with the response that I give. I want you to be cared for. And if that person is not available, would you rather stay here in this discomfort, or would you rather leave and get support elsewhere?
I'll stay here in the discomfort.
Okay. Thank you. And if at any point in time any request arises that isn't about content, please raise your hand and we'll see if we can support you. Does that work for you? Okay. All right. So now I'm going to take a breath or two. Yeah, I'm seeing that it's harder for me to offer care that I experience as not being received than to offer content that there's disagreement about. That's really interesting. All right. Kiran, whatever your question was then, maybe it's different now. Who knows?
I know it feels so distant now. It relates to what you were engaging right before you invited us into breakout rooms. Let me just reconnect for a sec. Yeah, when you're saying like how men can support women in their leadership, that thread, and I'm a woman, who I would call it almost like leading from below with my boss, who is a female, and I'm a person of color and she's white. And I mean, if I were to use a simplified phrase, I would say she's an embodiment of patriarchy, like just full on jump down my throat. You're too slow. You should think about sending a thank you email. Every second matters, and I'm sitting here framing it as like, the problem isn't thank you emails. The problem is people are so overworked that they don't want to deal with one more thing in their inbox. Anyways, there's been a whole dynamic. My question, I think it's more getting input from you about female to female and this thing about take her out to lunch and just name the thing. My interpretation is I don't think she's aware of the thing. That's my sense. I don't think she's even aware that she's internalized patriarchy or that she's trying to make it in a system. I don't even think she's aware. So what do you do if the person isn't aware? And B, how do you navigate when there is this power differential based on, her position
Two dimensions.
And that she's a white person and I'm a person of color. And I'm celebrating many things that I've done already, which, we can go there if we need to unpack it. But I think just getting your input on any tips.
Yeah, I would like to start from a story that it's not about your situation. It's one of my favorite stories, and you may have heard me say it. It's from Rachel Naomi Remen, when she was working as a therapist for doctors. And she had, at the same time, two clients who were both surgeons in the same department in the same hospital. And each of them was telling her, I'm the only one in this department who cares about the patients. Everyone else is there for the money. And she knows that it can't be true because there's at least one other person who says the same but won't show it. So the moral of this story is that we cannot know people's awareness based on their actions when we exist in a hostile, low trust environment, which workplaces in the US at this time.
You just froze. You froze. I don't know if you froze for others or just me. You're still frozen.
She froze
Yeah,
for others,
frozen.
Karen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we're waiting for her to come back.
It's a good chance for deep breaths, all of us together in this virtual space here.
My regret, our internet here is getting worse as the season increases. So this is going to be worse and worse until we are out of here for the summer. So I don't know when I lost the connection, but what I was, oh, you're muted. What I was saying, the last thing I remember saying is that you can't actually, that the workplaces in the US at this time are by default hostile, low trust environments, unless there is some kind of a miracle in a particular workplace.
Okay.
So she is, whether she knows this or that or the other about what her choices are, guaranteed she's under enormous stress, enormous pressure, a tremendous amount of self-doubt, having to prove, stress, all of that. That must be true. How do I know that it must be true? No human being would behave in those ways except under stress.
Okay.
So you knew Julie Green. Not that many people did.
Mm-hmm.
Julie Green's last workplace before she dedicated herself completely to NVC, she had a boss that was micromanaging her all the time. And she made it her business. And there was no racial component there. So I want to add that and get into that in a moment, because it's not just an added layer, it's complex. But before that, let's bracket that for a moment. What she did for months is she engaged with her boss only empathically. And over the course of several months, she became her boss's confidant. She would come to her to talk and complain about other workers, and the micromanaging stopped. So I am not suggesting that you do this. I am only saying this to say that she is caught up in the system no less than you, just in a different spot within the system. And so the question is, do you have enough strength to come from a place of solidarity towards her, in her whiteness, in her bossness, in her embracing or functioning in patriarchal ways? It's only a matter of capacity. not is it right or not right. It's a question of, do you have that capacity and do you have that willingness?
Are you asking me in this moment?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. No. And what I want to say, what are the alternatives? The alternative is for me to keep receiving the crap. So I don't exactly know what, at a minimum, I want to have the strength for my own sense of well-being.
Yeah. So then converting every bit of crap into mourning, bringing tenderness to yourself, and any little bit of tenderness that you can bring to her within you, not towards her, within you.
Right.
One of the things that I used to do in situations, any situation like this, is to try to imagine the person that is giving me crap as a baby who was born. At one point, she was born. She wasn't born like this. It was done to her. If I can remember that, that supports tenderness, not like, I get it. You don't have willingness, you don't have capacity, it's too much, it's blah, blah, blah. So you don't do anything to engage with her. But within you, for your well-being, the more tenderness you have towards her, the more well-being you will have for yourself.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify, it's not all or none. I've had increments of capacity and willingness that I have been taking, and I feel like I've moved the needle in some ways.
Yeah.
So I think I want to note that. And
yes, I hear that.
Yeah.
And the piece that I want to underline is very rigorously to, in case you forget, maybe you don't, but in case you forget, you're not doing it for her, you're doing it for you.
I'm doing it for me so that I can be connected to my own humanity and hers.
So that you live in a world populated by human beings and not monsters. It feels better.
Yes. I feel like that journey is almost the same as having capacity and willingness. In other words, to the degree that I feel that I'm living in a world populated by humans and not monsters, to that degree, I would probably have strength and willingness.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that every little bit of tenderness that you can bring to yourself and tenderness that you can bring to her, just tenderness through mourning, nothing else, just tenderness through mourning will increase your well-being. That's the only bit that I'm saying.
Tenderness through mourning, and everything else is whatever. It'll be whatever it is. Yeah, and for me to not, demonize her in my mind and or resort to my own sort of reactive kind of out of power,
Yeah.
It's a learning lab for me right now.
Yes, because ultimately the path forward anywhere is to find our capacity to respond to patriarchal shit in non-patriarchal ways.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay. And you mentioned coming back to the racial piece. Is there more, or is it the same? Same suggestion.
It's not that I have specific suggestions. That I want that Am I still, yeah. That complicates it and adds layers of making it more challenging, both externally and internally, both within you and within her. So I just wanted to give the acknowledgement. It's not like there's anything different to do. It's just that it makes it harder.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Mhm. Thanks. Is there anything that anybody wants to add on this thread?
I have a follow-up question.
Before your question.
That's for my question. Yes, thank you for tracking. You know, you say I like how you put it, that we're working on developing this capacity to respond to patriarchal shit in non-patriarchal ways. And it reminds me of a quote that you shared before that doesn't come from you about how it's the oppressed, not the oppressors that liberate, right?
That's
And
Paulo Freire.
okay. Well, and then I've also heard you say in the articles, like the antidote is to create a field of love that's greater, that encompasses and holds. And what's going on for me is like, it feels so hard to do that. Like, so at a material level, how does that even look like to create a field of love greater? And secondly, like, how do the oppressed even get to a place? Like, it feels like insult to injury to me to ask that of the oppressed. That's what it feels like to me. And so
Then I would say, Noor, that you're not in a place to do it. If it feels like adding insult to injury, then it's not your path, at least
But
not
I
at the
don't
present.
want that. That's why I'm asking. I want to get beyond that, and I feel like you're going to tell me to mourn, and I want more than that. More than mourning. Isn't that funny?
Yes, yes. The other pathway is to come together with other people and create islands of sanity.
Okay. All right. I can hear that. That I could work on. Okay,
You're
that's
very, very, very individual, Noor.
thank you. I don't mean that like I'm proud of that, but like, yes, I hear you on that. And I think it's a protective mechanism for me. Yeah. From my trauma history and all of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I never, ever, ever expect any of us to generate that love field on our own.
Okay, that makes sense. Oof. Can I ask you in what ways you've experienced me as an individual? And it may not be on purpose now, but
It's not on purpose. I would rather not do it now.
okay, that's fine. That
Do you
wasn't
have your other question? Do you have your other question?
I do, and I'm like scared to ask it.
Then slow down. Then just slow down.
I think it's because I'm afraid of rejection because it feels personal to me, and I want to know your thoughts about it, but it also feels important for me to expose because it's related to this topic. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm wanting some acknowledgement because obviously when you're speaking about patriarchal conditioning and how it affects boys and girls differently, and you've said patriarchy is not about men, which I understand on some level, and it's not, I've asked you this before, and you're like, it's not about sexuality either, because I've made like I've tried but what's present for me is I'm really wanting an acknowledgement that patriarchal socialization affects, in my experience, gay boys and straight boys differently. And I guess I'm wanting that to be known and exposed because in the generality in which it's expressed, it gets overlooked. And it's so personal to me that the experience I had is in some ways similar to, but different, obviously, to what girls get, like I wasn't into competitive aggressive sports. And so then I get grouped as weak and, rejected and all this stuff. And in some ways that was harsher than what a non gay boy would get in terms of that sort of thing. So um I think I want to acknowledge and want to hear what you have to say, but there's like a lot of charge around me.
Yeah. Yeah, I have some sadness about not having said more about that and opened that pathway. I have some sadness about this because it's more specific. In many places, part of male training is there are two things that you can be named if you don't conform as a boy. You will either be named sissy or whatever the equivalents of that are in other cultures. You're too much like a girl, or you're gay. So the male training as it stands is narrowly
Or both,
focused.
Or both.
Yeah. And it's focused on forcing you to be a particular thing that is heterosexual, non-feeling, aggressive, all of these things, competitive, in order to have any modicum of belonging. So I can see as a gay boy, even if you even know that, because you might not even know that as a boy.
I knew.
There is nowhere to go. Because if you're going to be a girl, at least you have other girls. But if you're going to be a gay boy and you think that you're the only one, you just don't belong.
You for saying that, yeah. And it was even more hard in my culture because there was gender segregation. So like when I tried to hang out with the girls, I was rejected by the girls too. Like, you need to hang out with the boys. And I never felt belonging with the boys either, So it was like I was in a bind.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. You have my full, warm blanket acknowledgement, all that you want for all that suffering.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, finish.
I think I really wanted for this piece to be exposed in the uniqueness and distinction of an experience of a boy that does not conform to what you said, heterosexual, non-feeling, aggressive, competitive, all of that, It's a very tight thing you have to fit in. And if you don't, you suffer more.
Yes. And part of the shit is that you don't get spared the training. So it does stick to you. Some of the male training sticks to you anyway, even if you're gay, even if you don't belong.
Yeah. Although I agree with you, but in some ways, some of it was somehow like easier for me to separate from some of it because I did identify with girls in some ways, more like more empathy, like I felt more belonging with girls and connection than, kind of the traditional, whatever macho archetype.
Yes, there are other layers of male training that I don't want to get into right now, that I don't know if you didn't take it on. One of the things that male training is designed for is to be willing to accept your needs being met at the expense of others.
Yeah, I did get that.
Yeah.
I have a celebration I just want to say really quickly, which is, I've been in groups with you for a while now where you like kind of you talk about prioritizing underprivileged voices and women and people of color and minorities. And in the past, I used to like approach it as a mechanical thing, like a rule, like, okay, now I have to take a step back. And recently I was in a group where I realized it was integrated in me. It was really like amazing. It was like, I didn't feel like I was sacrificing anything. I actually wanted to take a step back. And I was celebrating that. Like, I think I just it took time, but it integrated. It was like a choice, and it was like I understood why, and it was coming from generosity. So I just want to share that with you.
I'm super pleased, and I want to say, I don't believe that I've ever asked anybody to take a step back. What I'm asking people is to focus on listening and receiving rather than active participation, which is slightly different. I'm still celebrating your integration. I just want you to integrate what I've asked and what you hear in other places.
That's funny.
Taking a step back is not a road to liberation.
Okay. All right, that's fair. I see the distinction you're saying. Okay.
Thank you.
Because it's coming out of separation. I see. Okay. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate you listening.
Kiran, your hand is still up. Do you want to say more, or was it just?
I
think
haven't
it just
spoken
never got
today.
put down. I never got put down, so I'll take
Okay.
it down.
Okay, Dylan.
Thank you. I thought you said, Dylan, your hand is still up, and I'm like, yes, it
No.
is.
No, I
Okay.
don't know why twice
Karen,
today
yeah, that's
I said
Karen,
Kiran and people
Dylan.
hear something else.
Yes. So first, I want to acknowledge how how things taught from the system are like so very painful to witness. And in the breakout room, you know, the things we're taught as a woman, the things we're taught if we're not a woman, or quote, not a woman or not a man, quote, just how painful it is, and how I celebrate that you opened the space for this and you're caring for yourself as well. Because I have felt deeply moved a number of times about a number of things. And the one I wanted to speak to is about how biology matters, because I am from the ilk that is like, wait a second, you can't have if you go to biological reductionism, where there's only men and only women, men and women, and that's what we're talking about, it just kind of hurts me in some weird way. And I appreciated that you said, to re-engage or re-explore with it. And what I want to know, how do you speak to biological reductionism? Someone on the call mentioned a biological continuum, and I'm wondering how those can be merged so it doesn't feel so dualistically oppositional, men versus women, all of that, which I know that's what you're not saying. And I still, when you go to mothers and fathers, and there's one other thing, and that is, I was toying with the idea of reproduction control or reproductive control as a way of saying it, but I guess it's missing the component by a particular part of society, which was the father-ishness. So,
I'm sorry, I lost you. Just this last thing. Can you say it again?
you lost me because I said too much, which I have a tendency to do. So what?
Just the last thing. I couldn't piece it together. If you can just say it again.
Yes, I was thinking of another term for the patriarch, which was reproductive control, but I thought it missed the component of who the reproductive control is by one segment of society. Reproductive control by a segment of society, right? To pass the accumulation. Yeah. So the biological continuum versus biological reductionism, which in and of itself is a dualistic idea, but I'm wondering how to speak that.
I'm seeing how close we are to the end. I want to say this.
Okay.
The challenge is how to engage with the biological layer in a way that doesn't create biological reductionism, where biology isn't everything and it isn't nothing. Where biology doesn't determine and yet it shapes. This is the pathway that I'm thinking of, and I don't have it fully spelled out yet.
Thank you. Thank you for naming the importance of engaging with biology as a thing, as a component of how we shift, as a root cause of the way resources are withheld from me or given to someone else. Like it's like it really matters to question this. I really, yeah. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad you did this. It's important to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Isabel, and then we'll close.
I had two questions about supporting leadership in women. And the first is that I can get the sense of why, what makes sense for me, both for women that we have not been invited to be in our full power, and also I can see the liberational part for men. And at the same time, I was wondering how to do that in a way that doesn't exclude men from certain positions. And I was thinking also when you said that in NGL, men orient to woman leadership.
Mm-hmm. So I think that this goes into a question of what leadership means. And there is this whole orientation of co-creating within a led field that is very complex, so that you can follow women's leadership without giving up on your power. And that's something that is very hard for people to grasp. It takes a while for that to sink in, that following someone's leadership is not about giving up on your power. That's the piece that I want to highlight.
Yeah,
that
makes sense for me.
There is a blog post that is on the Fearless Heart that is something about co-creating within a led field. And I don't remember the actual title of it. If somebody remembers, you can place it in there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and the other question was about if I think in a global way and the desire of increasing women's leadership, I was thinking how that can match with the fact of continue to being in contact with them mother qualities and the mother the fact that they need a lot of time to care for the kids, and I don't know how that can match in terms of the capacity of women to be in leadership in general and still continue to maintain that.
It's not, number one, I think the solution is communal approaches to being with children. If you maintain the nuclear family, you maintain patriarchy.
Yeah.
That's the simplest thing to say. There's a lot that we would need to figure out. If we wanted to figure it out, we would. Okay, I want to bring us to close and just to hear from a few people who haven't participated yet. What's something you're taking with you from having been here today? I would love to hear more voices. I actually would like to hear from Amir, what you got from being here today, given what you said at the very beginning.
Actually, I'm quite confused and too much words for me.
Okay, never mind then.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming back to me.
Anyone has anything that you actually received, that you were nourished by, something that you understood, anything?
The reminder of tenderness through mourning.
Thank you.
I think for me, the connecting patriarchy to the material as moving from just a conceptual sort of social political strategy was new for me. And then the question of how on the material plane, what can we shift to begin shifting out of it is something that I'm going to be taking away and pondering.
Great. Very happy to hear that. Thank you. Anyone else? What are you leaving with? What new thought or feeling? Andrew?
Yeah, I just one of the things I was just taking when we were talking about bosses and leadership and all of that kind of stuff, and then the hostile environment, and I was just thinking in a very sort of charitable way, I think, towards a particular boss I have, and thinking more in terms of the things that you outlined of separation, scarcity, and powerlessness, and how someone in a leadership role, however, whatever their intentions, can become taken up with sort of power over as a way of dealing with the stress
Thank
that
you.
they're encountering. Thanks.
Thank you. Elodie and Rebecca, and then we'll close.
Yeah. The more I will have tenderness for a specific one with who I am in conflict, for example, the more I would have tenderness for myself. That's really. Yeah.
Thank you. And Rebecca?
I've started to question my relationship to money even more. And when I hear and I can see more clearly how hoarding and accumulating money is contributing to patriarchy and oppression and all those sorts of things. It's like, whew, I have some things to work through and think about. Yeah. So it's kind of hit me that way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm really appreciating everyone for being here and being willing to chew on these really, really, really difficult topics. Till next, whatever it is. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.